Today we're going to be talking about my first impressions on the Harley Davidson Pan America. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Chad with BeGoneForGood. Thank you very much for tuning in. We do videos all about adventure motorcycling, from the bikes we ride, the trips we take, tips, tricks, tutorials, all the gear that we have. If you're looking for adventure riding, this is the channel for you. If you like that sort of thing, hit that subscribe button down there, hit that bell so you get notifications every time we upload a new video. And if you like this specific video, hit that thumbs up, comment below, it really helps us out. First off, had an opportunity to go to Overland Expo this past year, and Harley Davidson brought out the Pan America. Big, long 18-wheeler with just dozens of Pan Americas out there. Everybody was really excited to see them, go through them. They had a bunch of reps there, all dressed in black, talking to everybody about what the Pan America does, what it was built for, how much Harley Davidson is behind this bike, and giving everybody an opportunity to ride. It was a really slick setup to sign in. They check your license and a few other items to make sure that you're an actual rider. Then they take you over, give you a real down and dirty, super fast, probably about 10 minutes, just running you through the bike, the different modes that it's got, the different settings it's got, how to operate the bike. And then they set you off on a track. It's about a 15-mile loop, takes you probably about a half hour to do, and they let you go on a brand new Pan America bike. These are my thoughts immediately getting off of that bike. And if you stay tuned, I'll talk a little bit more about my kind of long-term impressions, because that was about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, and my thoughts have changed just a little bit on it. So here are my thoughts immediately coming off of the bike.
All right, so I just rode the Harley Davidson Pan America, their new adventure offering for this year. Took it out on a little like 15-20 mile loop, and it's interesting. It's, for starters, it's the first manual I've ridden in probably 3 years, so there was a slight learning curve there, which I'll tell you, I'm glad that I can still do. I guess it's sort of like riding a bike. The other thing that I noticed that was really interesting is it seems like my body position was kind of all screwed up, and I know that I've got my bike tailored kind of specifically for me at 6'5", so I'm sure a lot of this stuff could be arranged on the Harley as well, but I felt like I was leaning so hard that like my hands and my wrists were obviously feeling a little bit of strain that I don't get on the bike where I can kind of just stack my entire body, you know, straight up. Whereas on this bike, I was leaning forward, like I'd have to engage a lot more of my back in order to kind of keep myself from leaning into the handlebars. That was something that was a little interesting. The shifting and then the throttle. Again, I'm coming from a Honda, which my understanding has got a very linear acceleration. This one, I mean, just the slightest touch on there and it starts kind of blipping a little bit. So I was really unsteady there. But again, I'm guessing that's the sort of thing that you would sort of adjust to and get a little bit more comfortable with as you rode it more. It's a nice bike. It's got a smaller front wheel, so turning is a lot sharper. Almost slippery on the turn. Not that anything was sliding out, but it's just the slightest move or lean and you're making the turn. So it doesn't take much. I would be curious to know what a 21-inch front wheel on there would do, but it's a nice bike. It strangely, other than the power band, reminded me a lot of coming off of the CB500X. Like the whole bike just feels a little small, and even the seat, where I tend to ride all the way back on the Honda because it's got a fairly flat seat. On this one, I felt like I was sort of sliding right into the tank every time, and there was nowhere to go back because the pillion seat is raised. So by the time you get back to the pillion seat, you're 2.5 feet off and an extra 6 inches higher than the driver's seat. So it's a strange place to be as somebody who's tall with long legs, that I'm sort of like stuck down on the tank. You know, my arms bent, that like elbows are poking into me on tight turns and stuff. It's a strange bike ergonomically for me. Now, again, I'm sure there are adjustments that could be made. There are things you could do a little bit differently to make it a little bit more comfortable, but just be aware of that. Power-wise, awesome. They started us in 3 different modes. We got to go rain mode right off the bat, which is, I guess, full ABS, full traction control, kind of reduced acceleration capabilities, or at least a very flat acceleration line. Then they take you to highway, which kind of, I think he said, goes to like a 45-degree angle on the acceleration, fairly steady, and all the way to Sport, which is really like an exponential acceleration. And if you juice it there, you can feel it. The bike picks up really nice. It never got super fast, but you can tell it gets up and goes really well, as you would expect from a Harley. The sound is awesome. That's very different from the Honda in that you can hear it. It's got that great Harley sound. Being back on a manual, I got to pull in the clutch and just kind of like, punch it a little bit, give it a couple of little revs, which was cool. Other than that, it was, it's a nice bike. It feels very different from the Honda, and I think that's the point. Knowing that this is supposed to be a competitor to BMW, I'm sort of curious because the BMWs seem even more refined than the Honda, and this does not feel like a refined bike. This feels a little grittier, a little. The suspension. The suspension on the Honda, everybody talks about is very marshmallowy, is very soft, pillowy. But on this, it's extremely rigid. Again, I'm sure it's a setting that you can change, but I was feeling every bump and shimmy in the road a lot. It was kind of jostling the bike around. But once you got used to that and accounted for it, the ride was really nice. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's not a bike that I'm interested in right now at all. I would look at the BMW strongly before I looked at this bike, but I do like that it's an American-made vehicle. I like that Harley is attempting an entrance into this category. That's only good things for us. But as of right now, I would suggest if you have a Harley in your neighborhood that's willing to let you go out on the Pan America, give it a shot. It's a cool bike. It's an interesting bike. It may be a bit of a surprise from what you thought was coming from Harley. I hope you enjoy it.
So that's everything I immediately thought. Now, given a little bit of time and a little bit of distance and an opportunity to ride my own bike quite a bit more, I will tell you, I think that the Harley Davidson is built into a category that's goal is to bring Harley riders into adventure, not to bring adventure riders over to Harley. And that's obviously a choice that they had to make it somewhere down the line. And I think because of sort of dwindling adherence to Harley in general, obviously a lot of folks are aging out of the Harley brand. And so they need to bring in young blood. And I think that the way that they were hoping to do that is people that were always interested in Harley and having this new offering that puts them in a category that otherwise they wouldn't have been able to get into. It offers them that opportunity. I do not believe that anybody who has been riding an adventure bike and is happy with the adventure bike they had out there already will find a lot in Harley to be excited by. The price point is just super, super high. That competitors are the BMW, some of the higher end other bikes that are out there, which have been doing this a long time and have perfected the adventure game. Now, a couple of things that Harley brings to the table that you may or may not necessarily appreciate as perhaps a long-term adventure rider is the squatting function that it has. Now, I'm a tall rider, so this doesn't really mean anything for me, but as a short rider, the fact that this bike, as it comes to a stop, squats and lowers itself down so that you can put a foot on the ground, maybe that's a deal breaker for you or a deal maker for you. Maybe that's something that just immediately puts you in tune with this bike. That's possible. Maybe it's the fact that it's a Harley in general, which again, I think sort of speaks to the idea that if you're interested in the Harley brand and want to get into adventure biking, then obviously this is a great place to start. If you're interested in adventure biking, I don't see how Harley has anything to give you. I've always been interested in Harleys. If I were to ever get a Harley, it 100% would not be the Pan America. I would get a cruiser. I would get the thing that Harley is known for. I'd get the thing that makes the most sense to have in a Harley motorcycle. For Harley, I would stick to what they've done really well for 50 years, not their brand new offering, which is priced out of competition with bikes I think that it may actually be competitive with. The Beamer, it's completely outclassed. So that's my thoughts. If you disagree with me, definitely leave a comment down below. If you agree with me, also love to hear that to combat some of the just terrible teardowns I get, but it's all in good fun. That's what YouTube's for. Let me know what you think. This is Chad again with Be Gone for Good. We do videos all about this type of stuff. We deal heavily in adventure motorcycling. We've got a ton of really interesting things coming up for 2022, including hitting the Wyoming BDR, which is the first year that it's available. So we will be not one of the first, but definitely in the category of firsts for that route. And we're really excited to get out there, and we'll have videos all about the sequencing that we're gonna be doing prior to plan for it, to prep for it, the gear that we're gonna take, all that type of stuff. So definitely tune in for that. Hit subscribe so that you get all that stuff down the line. Thank you very much for watching. And remember again, the adventure starts with you, up here and in here. Thanks a lot, ride safe.